Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Tuesday, and all of our guests today, including Craig Button, standing by, brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. More on them in a bit, but first let's get to Craig, TSN Scouting Director. Thanks for doing this, sir, in the wake of the Panthers' 6-1 victory last night. How are you?
I am very good. How are you doing, Donnie?
Very, very well, better than the Oilers today. What was the most impressive aspect of what the Panthers were up to last night?
Yeah, well, I think that the overall start of their game and then the way they just kept being relentless and really created a level of frustration for the Edmonton Oilers that we saw spill over in the third period. And that's to be expected when you're getting beat as soundly as the Oilers did. But it was a real thrashing by the Florida Panthers in that game.
What do you expect from Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on Thursday, Craig? And I ask that because both of them got hit. McDavid got hit hard. They combined for 0 points, -3, just 2 shots. What do you expect from those two Warriors on Thursday?
Well, much better. I mean, there was no good players in the game last night for the Edmonton Oilers. There just wasn't. I mean, if you're trying to say, well, who was the best of a bad lot? Like, they all failed. Nobody passed the test last night. And at even strength, Draisaitl and McDavid were invisible. They did nothing. So that's the worst game I've seen the Edmonton Oilers play since Game 2 of the LA series, and we know how they rebounded after that game. Reeling off a series of wins that got them to the Stanley Cup final. So, there's no momentum carryover. I don't expect Draisaitl and McDavid to have another game like that because they're just too good. They're too wired, and I don't expect the Edmonton Oilers to have a game like that. I do think, though, they're going to have to be a little bit smarter in terms of their decision-making and specifically their strategy. They're going to have to find a way to dump the puck in and put the puck in below the goal line of the Florida defense, because the Florida defense now are just standing up and they're attacking the Edmonton Oilers. That's why they're getting hit. And what you want to do is be the hitter and not have to absorb the hits. And if they don't make that strategy change, you're going to just see a whole lot of the same that we saw in Game 3.
I asked this question yesterday on our show, Craig. I'll ask it to you as well. What did you think of the Brad Marchand trade when it was done? What do you think of it now?
Well, I thought it was terrific by the Florida Panthers about just saying, hey, we're going after it. We're going to add somebody that is a proven playoff winner, somebody that's competitive. And you weren't asking Brad to come in and be a frontline player on a top team. You're asking him to just add more of what they had. When a team understands who they are and what they are and what type of player they need, I think that it was exactly the type of player that fits perfectly into Florida. Too many teams at the trade deadline, they add players that don't strengthen their group. Their player ads, teams feel that like, oh yeah, well I need somebody, so they get somebody, but does it really make a meaningful difference to their team? And I think that Brad Marchand was exactly that for the Florida Panthers.
Craig, the draft combine is in the books in Buffalo. How much stock do you put in what we hear, see, watch from these guys at the combine compared to what you've seen all season long?
I put nothing into it, Ryan. And when I say nothing, let me tell you, zero. The only thing that matters to me coming out of the combine is the medical reports that are performed on the players. And I say that because you may see some things or find some things that players weren't aware of. I use David Carl as an example. He was going to be a top 50, 60 pick in the draft. They found a heart issue with him that ended his career. That's the only thing that I put any stock into. Medical reports on, where's Roger McQueen? What type of feedback do we have on that? Other than that, I don't care how many push-ups a player does. I don't care how many pull-ups he does. I don't care what his VO2 max is. I don't care how he interviewed in 15 minutes. Nothing else matters to me from the combine.
So speaking of the interviews, there's also a dinner watch and who took who out for dinner. It's almost like speed dating. So apparently Braden Coots of the Seattle Thunderbirds center went out for a meal with the Vancouver Canucks. What is it? You have him at number 18 on your most recent Craigslist, I believe. What's your draft profile on Braden Coots of Seattle?
I think he's a really good two-way center, Ryan, and I think we've talked about him and Cole Reshny as a potential fit for the Vancouver Canucks. You know, if you don't draft centers, you're not going to have centers, and so you have to look at what the draft can afford at any moment in time and at any particular point in time. And for the Vancouver Canucks, I think that looking at a center is something that I think would be prudent. Now, if they have somebody that they think is a much better player based on their own rating system, then I wouldn't say don't do that. But if it's close and you need a center, then you need to draft a center. I will also tell you this, Ryan. When I was with Dallas and with Calgary, we used to purposefully parade players in front of other teams when we were taking them out for dinner. The players that we did take out for lunch or dinner, you never knew about.
Ah.
Wow, you sly devil. Hey,
I'm just jealous of these guys. Some of these prospects, they went out for like 4 different meals with 4 different teams. I'm jealous. That's nice. Yeah. Wine and dine.
Yeah.
We don't get.
Yeah, well, hey, listen. You're talking about the future. These teams are trying to find, some different information, some different comfort levels with the players. They've narrowed it down in terms of their evaluations of what they're doing. Now, they're going to have to make a choice, and they're going to have to make a choice over a handful of players. And you're trying to find that comfort level with respect to, all the information you have, and just trying to understand how a player feels about his future, how he carries on. One of the things I hear Michael Misa, James Hagens are ready to play in the NHL next year. Okay, that's great. I hear that every year. One of the things that we always did in Dallas and Calgary was we told the players what to expect. And you weren't going to play for us next year. You were going back to junior. You were not going to be part of our group. And we were going to work with you. They didn't like hearing that, but they knew exactly what to expect.
So did that ploy ever work, Craig? Where you paraded a player in front of everybody else and then somebody else drafted them when maybe you thought they wouldn't, but because you guys supposedly thought so highly of that player, an opposition team took that player?
I can't answer that definitively, but okay. I know this, Don. Where we were serious about players, we didn't do it at the Combine. We didn't spend any time at the Combine with the players we were serious about. We went covert, and we went into their hometowns. We flew them into different places and met them there. Always spent time with their families. And we always told the players, too, if you're asked who you've met with, just say, I prefer not to answer that I've met with a number of teams. Because that's one of the questions that teams out. Who else have you met with? And so we always asked the players we were serious about. The players we weren't serious about, we told them, tell everybody that you met with us. Yeah. Tell them you spent hours with us. Tell them that we let them order lobster and caviar and everything that went with it.
Hey, Sam Bennett, what did he do? 4 or couldn't do a chin up at one of the combines?
Couldn't do a pull up.
Yeah, yep, there you go.
Couldn't do a pull up.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
I don't know how many, Brett Hull, I don't know if you ever heard the story about Brett Hull and Mike Keenan. Mm-hmm. So Mike Keenan comes into St. Louis, the coach, and they're doing all this physical testing, and Brett Hull he's not going to do any pull-ups. So Mike Keenan's all over Brett Hull. And Brett Hull, he goes, you can't do any pull-ups. And Brett Hull goes, yeah, but I can do this 86 times a year.
You had me at Brett Hull and Mike Keenan. You didn't even have to tell the story. That's fabulous. Hey, one more, Craig, if you don't mind, because this name was mentioned when it came to the Canucks coaching search. What are the Bruins like about Marco Sturm?
Well, he played for them, and I think Marco, I think there's 3 things that come to mind with me with Marco. Marco's been an assistant in the NHL. He's been a head coach in the minor leagues, and he's got international experience. So, and I'm talking about coaching. So, we look at the international flair in the NHL and that whole effect. So Marco's got a grasp on that. He's got a grasp of playing in the NHL and then being on an NHL bench. And then he's worked with young players as a head coach in the American Hockey League. So I think those three factors all add up to a real terrific hire.
I just heard our bosses want to take us out for a really nice dinner. Should we be worried?
Listen, I'll take you out to a really nice dinner. We'll go to Joe Forte's.
Oh,
Done.
Yeah.
Done deal. I'll take the dinner even if I get fired. That's fine.
No, well, I mean, it would just be for good company, and I'll tell everybody that we're really interested in Donington. Ryan, you're invited too.
Craig, thanks for this. Good stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, take care.
Awesome.